Hey, this is AmKay at Purple Sky 11, and you're watching part 11 of my series, Digging Through the Owen Hart Files. If you're new to the channel, please keep in mind this video is part of a series, and you can find a link to the full playlist down in the description box. Before I get started on the content of today's video, I want to make a quick correction about something that I said in part 10b, when I talked about the equipment testing. Near the end of that video, when this image was on the screen, I said that these were the conclusions the police made from seeing the results of the equipment testing, and that is somewhat incorrect. What I should have said is that these were the conclusions of Tom DeWeer and his partner Perry Brandt following numerous recreations of the stunt. And the police, namely Detective Martin in this case, had included these conclusions in this specific report that was regarding the equipment testing. I just want to make sure that I'm clear on that because these are not the conclusions that the police came to in the investigation. These were the conclusions of the expert stunt riggers that the police had contacted in order to recreate this stunt and give their expert opinion as far as what could have gone wrong. Just to be clear. I'd also really like to share something that my son has been working on. He's learning how to use AI to generate images and video content. And the images I'm going to share with you now are not Owen Hart. These are AI-generated images that my son created. Now, I think they turned out pretty awesome, so I thought I'd share them with you all. Here's another image he created. When this one generated, we were both like, whoa, because it sort of looks like he's falling from the ceiling into the ring. When the image is generating, it's like watching a Polaroid picture develop. If anyone remembers those old cameras with the instant film, it starts out like a blur and then it comes into focus, and then you can see the image. It's pretty neat. My son also generated some images of Chris Benoit, and they turned out really great as well. And here's another of Chris Benoit. Interesting that the AI added what looks like blood on this generated image of Benoit. The AI did that itself. My son did not write that into the code. And then here's one of Chris and Nancy that he made. And I absolutely love this. I think it's gorgeous. I love it. Like I said, he's been learning how to work with AI imaging. He wants to get into doing some stuff online, and he and I are working on some content together, and I'll be sharing that content on my channel in addition to my regular content, and hopefully you'll enjoy watching it as much as we enjoy making it. I'm really excited about it. It's always fun to spend time with family, and this is something that we can do together and have a little fun with. So thank you for your time and allowing me to share this, and I hope you'll tune in to see what else we have for you. So with all of that said, let's dig into these documents. We're starting out this video with a report that I thought was rather interesting. This is an interview with Dave Genovensi from eBay Auction Service. And it's Detective William Martin with the Homicide Unit who's doing the interview. And we're still on July 12th of 1999. And on that day, at 9:50 a.m., Detective Martin was contacted by Dave Genovensi by telephone in response to a message that Detective Martin had left at his office. This says that Genovensi is a representative for eBay Internet Auction Service. Genovensi was advised that Detective Martin was seeking information regarding an item that was listed on their auction site, and this item was described as the Owen Hart death video. This item was reportedly a videotape taken by a person who was sitting in the 8th row of Kemper Arena the night this event occurred. The event, of course, being the death of Owen Hart at the Over the Edge pay-per-view event in Kansas City, Missouri. And according to this police report, the video apparently captured Owen Hart as he was falling. Genovensi was asked to provide any information he had concerning the identity of the person making the listing and account information for the item number 109701772. Genovensi stated that this account was opened on 5/23/1999, which of course was the date of the Over the Edge event, Owen Hart's date of death, and this particular item, as in the video, was first posted for sale on 5/25 of 1999. And Genovensi stated that this item was then removed from the auction list on 5/29 of 1999, and that there were no bids placed on the item. So this videotape, according to this report, was listed on eBay for 4 days, May 25th through May 29th, and nobody bid on it? Is that unusual? Genovese stated the item was listed to a William T. Johnson of number 61 Redacted Drive in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. And then the phone number was there and it's redacted. And Genovese stated the screen name listed on the eBay account was, you can see, I redacted the first part of the email address there, but it was redacted at email.women.com. And according to Genovese, this person's real email address is different from the eBay account. The real email address is redacted at email.women.com. And if anyone watching knows anything about this women.com email, please let me know in the comments. Thank you in advance. This says the only information Genovese had concerning this item is that there was no feedback on this account for anyone attempting to purchase the tape. And I feel like that's unusual. No bids, not even a comment or a question about the item. Nothing? This report continues saying, Detective Martin attempted to telephone the listed party, this William T. Johnson, with the phone number that he was given, and he found that the number could not be connected, possibly because that number had been disconnected. And as you can see there, that's the end of the document with the signature of the supervisor right there at the bottom of the page. I wonder if anyone followed up on this. It says here that Detective Martin tried the phone number, but what about these email accounts? And what about this eBay account? Has there been any further activity? Any other items posted for sale? What about any purchases? Anything there of interest? Did anybody look? I don't know. If they did, that report is not included in the pages of this dossier. My opinion here, I get the feeling this is a dummy account created by someone trying to profit from this tragedy. And I feel like that someone knew he or she was doing something shady. Who even knows if this tape was real or fake? But the name William T. Johnson, that's a very common name, like a John Smith. Do you get what I'm trying to say here? And I feel like something spooked this person and they decided to take down the listing. I don't know, again, that's just the feeling I get from this. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. I do know that if I were investigating this case, it says here that this person claimed to be in the 8th row of Kemper Arena the night Owen fell to his death. I'd see if I could get a list of contact information for everyone sitting in the 8th row, and I'd go from there. I don't know, does this tape exist somewhere out there? What do you think? Moving on to the next document in the investigation timeline, on the screen now, is another police interview with Rich HEREIN from Titan Sports, and Titan Sports is the parent company of what at the time was the WWF. And this guy, Rich HEREIN, well, his name is actually Rich Herring, and he was mentioned previously in these police files, way back in part 1. We looked at this report dated 5/23/99, the night of Owen's death. And that night at Kemper Arena, police interviewed Mark Yeaton, who was the event operations manager of Titan Sports. And Mark Yeaton told police to contact Rich HEREIN because he's the one who will be doing the internal investigation at Titan. And now we have this report featuring an interview with Rich HEREIN. This is another report by Detective William Martin, who is with the Homicide Unit of the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department. This is a one-page report, and the date, as you can see here, this is still on July 12th, 1999. And on that day, at noon, Detective Martin left a message at the office of Rich HEREIN of Titan Sports, which it says here again is the parent company of the WWF. And he left a message to follow up on information that had been previously requested from their company concerning the identity of the previous riggers who had worked with Owen prior to his death. It says here that Rich HEREIN originally stated that he would have the events coordinator, Steve Taylor, contact Detective Martin with the information, and it says that Steve Taylor travels with the WWF and that he has yet to be interviewed. So Detective Martin leaves this message for Rich HEREIN, and then this report continues, stating later that same day at 1400 hours, which would be 2:00 p.m., Detective Martin received a call from HEREIN, and HEREIN stated that he was not aware that Taylor had still not contacted Detective Martin. Now remember, this Rich Herring, this guy is supposed to be in charge of the internal investigation at Titan Sports. And yet here he admits he's not aware that the police in Kansas City haven't received information they requested. So how thorough was his investigation? I'm just saying. Anyway, Rich Herring tells Detective Martin that he'll attempt to make contact with Taylor while they, the WWF, were out on the road, and he would have him contact Detective Martin with the information that he needed. And finally, HEREIN stated he did not know the identity of the previous riggers, but he did state that they were not employees of the WWF or Titan Sports. They were contract employees. Damn, and this is July 12th, so nearly 2 months after Owen's death in May, and police are still having a difficult time getting the names of these previous riggers. Nobody seems to know the identity of the previous riggers. My goodness. And then that is the end of this particular report. So let's move on to the next one. Next up, we're looking at yet another police interview, and the subject of this report is the attorney for AmSpec, Donna Mariansky. And you should recall that name. We talked about her in previous videos. Mariansky, as it says here, is the attorney for AmSpec, and AmSpec is the name of the distributor of some of the equipment that was used for the rigging of Owen Hart's stunt. This is now the third time police are in contact with Mariansky, at least as far as what is noted in the reports in this dossier. And you can see the first two interactions in Part 6 and Part 9 of this series, respectively. So looking at this report, again, this is with Detective William Martin from the Homicide Unit, and this is another one-page report. And we're still on the 12th of July. And on that date at around 1:20 p.m., Detective Martin contacted Donna Mariansky, the attorney representing the AmSpec Stunt Sewing Company. And during this conversation, Mariansky was asked for the identity of the person that AmSpec has hired as an expert concerning the civil action filed regarding the Hart case. This isn't the first time police asked Mariansky for the identity of this individual. This report on the screen now was covered in Part 9 of this series, and previously, Mariansky refused to give police the name, but this time we actually get a name, because she tells Detective Martin the person was Joe Branham, a resident of California who has worked with the WWF in the past. Mariansky said it was her understanding that Branham has worked for the WWF for the past several years, at least the past 5 that she is aware of. She said that Branham is a contract employee for the WWF as a rigger, and she's not sure if he also sets up stunts, but she believes so. She stated that she believes Branham was originally contacted by the WWF to rig the stunt in Kansas City, but the WWF had turned him down due to him apparently wanting too much money to complete the job. And Mariansky tells Detective Martin that she believes that is when the WWF contacted and hired Bobby Talbert for the job. And then Mariansky stated that after Branham thought about it, he told his wife, who also works for his company, to recontact the WWF and to tell them that he would do the job for whatever they wanted to pay him. Then Mariansky stated that Branham told her that he was not recontacted by the WWF, and later found out the WWF had hired another person for the job. Just wow. And the other person that was hired was indeed Bobby Talbert. So, a multi-billion-dollar corporation decided to save some money and go with Talbert instead of hiring a rigger who had successfully pulled off this stunt before. They passed on a person who knew what rigging to use, who had knowledge of aspects of this stunt that perhaps could be improved or should be changed altogether. Well, that decision may have cost Owen Hart's life. Yet it sure worked out quite lucratively for Bobby Talbert, didn't it? You can see the interviews police had with Bobby Talbert and my comments about that whole mess in, I think, parts 2 and 5 of this series. The link to the full playlist is in the description box. But from where I'm sitting, I can't think of any good reason to cut corners financially when it comes to safeguarding someone's life. And I'd like to know who makes the final call on those sort of decisions. I have a guess, but I don't know for certain. Plus, according to Mariansky here, she's saying Branham even offered to do the job for whatever they wanted to pay him, and nobody ever got back in touch with him, which kind of makes me wonder if maybe there was another reason WWF decided to go with Bobby Talbert. This report goes on to say that Detective Martin asked Mariansky if she was aware of any disagreement between Branham and the WWF concerning the safety of the job that was to be set up, and if that may have been the reason why he wasn't hired. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm wondering as well. And Mariansky said that was not the case that she was aware of. But then Mariansky says that Branham has told the WWF in the past that he was not going to be part of a particular stunt due to the safety concerns he had on how the WWF wanted it to occur, and the rigging and stunt were not done. Interesting. So according to this witness, Donna Mariansky, who is an attorney for AmSpec, this guy Branham, with previous rigging jobs that he's done with WWF in the past, he actually spoke up about safety concerns with the rigging, and it looks like maybe certain stunts were not done because of those concerns. So, is it a stretch then to question whether WWF decided not to hire Branham because he had safety concerns, and instead decided to hire a rigger like Bobby Talbert that they knew would be willing to, quote, make it work the way WWF wanted it done, that it would look the way they wanted it to look? Maybe money didn't have anything to do with why WWF decided not to hire Branham. What do you think about this? Do you think WWF chose not to hire Branham because of his safety concerns and instead hired Bobby Talbert, who would be willing to take more risks when it comes to safety in order to pull off the stunt the way that the WWF wanted it to look? Share your thoughts down in the comments. But this report then concludes with Mariansky stating, the documents Detective Martin had originally asked for from the AmSpec company should be arriving by mail to the reporting detective in Kansas City, Missouri within the next several days. And like I said earlier, you can see the first interview with Mariansky in part 6 of this series. The link is below. And that's the end of that second document. So let's see what else we have. We're almost at the end of this PDF dossier. Okay, and the next document that we're going to look at happens to be the last one that we have as far as the timeline of this investigation in this police dossier. And it also happens to be the final document that I have to show you, at least as far as the pages that are in this specific dossier. I still have a few more videos, at least 2, that I am doing after this with more information about this case. And what we're looking at now is a viewing of property report. And as usual, this is a report by Detective William Martin with the Homicide Unit. And notice how the date of this document is October 14th. So the documents in this police file jump from July 12th to October 14th. That doesn't necessarily mean that there was nothing going on with the investigation during those few months. All I can say is that the documents that I have are the documents that are available to the media. In other words, these are all the publicly available documents. It is possible that additional documents exist that aren't publicly available. As far as what information would have been on those reports and why it's been decided to keep them from the public, your guess is as good as mine. Also notice on this report that although the date on the heading is the 14th, the dialogue states this event occurred on the 15th. That had happened previously in these reports, and that bothers me because I feel like it's really important to keep dates and times accurate, especially with a case of this magnitude that a lot of people are going to be looking at and asking questions. So that annoys me, but it is what it is. It's probably just a clerical mistake. So anyway, let's take a closer look at this. This says that on October 15th, 1999, at 9:30 a.m., Detective Martin responded to the legal office of the police department to allow the following attorneys to view the property involved in this case. And present for this meeting were Pat Garcia, Julie Cox, and Craig O'Dear. And it says, at the conclusion of the viewing, Detective Martin repackaged the property and returned the items to the regional crime lab. And there you go. That's all that there is to this document. I have no information as far as which party these attorneys represented, and also, as you can see, no information is provided as far as which items of property relating to this case were viewed. We've gone over quite a few of these viewing of property reports, and those reports stated specific equipment as the items viewed. Also, these other viewing of property reports specifically stated that the attorneys were not allowed to move or touch the items. They were only allowed to photograph the items. However, now in this report, you can see there's nothing saying the items weren't handled. So maybe it didn't matter at this point in the investigation. This report is dated October, and the equipment testing was completed in July. The experts did use parts of the actual equipment for the stunt recreation, so maybe they didn't want anyone to handle those items before the testing to prevent the items from being damaged in a way that could maybe impede the testing in a manner that would cause them to come to incorrect conclusions. So this is the final publicly available document in the Kansas City Police investigation dossier concerning the death of Owen Hart. If you've been tuning in to the series just to see what's in the police investigation dossier, you have now viewed every single page. However, this is not the final video in the series. I'm working on videos focused on the aftermath of Owen's death, what happened with the Hart family's wrongful death suit, and I'm also going to talk about some conspiracies tied to Owen Hart's death. And that's all for now. Stay tuned for part 12, which will focus on the Hart family's wrongful death suit and the resulting fallout that still echoes throughout the wrestling industry to this day. If you'd like to support the channel, you can help me out by giving this video a thumbs up, subscribing, and sharing this video with anyone you think might be interested in the content, or by sending donations to the Cash App link that's in the description box below. This has been AmKay at Purple Sky 11. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, I hope you have a great day. Bye!